because $10 billion is the cost of every year. There was a $2 billion cost between Pakistan and Afghanistan trade, so that was gone. Plus we have about 3.5 million Afghan refugees lying there for 30 years, and plus the economy of Pakistan suffered as a result of the US jingoism in the region. And you correctly mentioned the real beneficiary of 9/11 are the defense industry in the United States and worldwide. Every time we see a security incident, we see some appliances planted somewhere and some cameras and some reading my emotions. There will be camera who can read my emotions, whether I'm happy or not happy, that kind of thing. Very briefly, I would like to mention the report in the New Statesman. The gentleman mentioned about the cohesion. The New Statesman reported that the young Jewish boys going to Israel, receiving active military training, coming back, violating the Foreign Enlistment Act of Britain, where the British citizens cannot join any foreign army. That hasn't been mentioned. I haven't heard anybody saying or even talking about it. That's very serious. And the third point is the financial terrorism, which has happened in Britain, and it's kind of a daylight robbery. And all this swine flu, I'm told yesterday that the professor who told us that the swine flu is going to kill millions and millions of people have been funded a couple of millions. And how many people died? I think less than 100 or 56 people died as a result of swine flu. So these kind of things basically are very important, as you correctly mentioned, to be investigated and brought into the legal system. This is how it's going to help. So I'm sure I'll welcome anybody who can add to those comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your question. It's not a difficult question to answer, reason being that it's not a fair word. Reason being that Resolution 1373 of the UN Security Council after the 9/11, it was adopted on 12th September 2001 unanimously in less than 5 minutes. Otherwise, in the UN Security Council, even a presidential statement which has no binding takes days. So this Resolution 1373 was adopted without a second thought. And I take you to the statement made by a then French president that today we are all Americans. So in the heat of the moment, when the whole world sympathized with the United States, and we do sympathize with the United States, what happened, because I was in New York at our permanent mission to the UN when 9/11 happened. And I can assure you that that day, every citizen on the streets in Manhattan, this United States was not the same United States. What I'm trying to tell you is that it is just not Pakistan, the whole world. And since 2001, the report of the UN, UNAMO, which is presented, and the extension of the military presence, it is every year extended. And it is extended without any opposition. So why to throw all the blame on Pakistan? We are not the center of the universe. And we are not also poodle. The reason being that had we been poodle, we would not have been a nuclear weapon state. I can assure you. Otherwise, we would have, had we been the poodle, so United States would not have allowed. Because otherwise you will be blaming the United States that they made us the nuclear weapon state. No. We pursue our independent foreign policy, but yes, we do adjust. And trimming of our sails does not mean that we change our destination. Let me tell you in clear words. And we are there. We are there to stay. It's because of our geography we are facing this problem. Otherwise, who cares about anywhere else? You are not in the news. We are the victim of our geography. But we are there with resilience. The governments may come and go, but the state of Pakistan is there, and the people, those who are there, they are working. So here we are not poodles. Let me tell you in clear words. What we have done within our borders in few months, They have not been able to do that in 9 years. And regarding the second question, gentlemen, regarding Blackwater, at least we don't have Blackwater. If there are intelligence people, so intelligence people are everywhere in the world. And if there are security people, they are everywhere in the world. So Blackwater, I'm not aware of that. But if this is something new, species which has emerged, they may be. They may be Iraqi brand. But they are, if they come in Pakistan by the title of Blackwater, I can assure you they will be thrown out. And we have done it, not in those who are Blackwaters, but there are, yes, we don't do that in public. There are certain steps which we take, of course, like governments, through diplomatic channels. And everything is not here for public consumption. Fine, I agree with you, but MI5 and others, there has to be accountability. Accountability, each organization has its own accountability, but all is not that bad. Otherwise we would not have survived, I can assure you. Because living among the sharks, we have found a way how to swim.
The butterfly syndrome.
Speaking upon the first question, I mean, just to add an interesting point, yes, we are all Americans now, apart from most of us don't have the vote. But also the notion of drones, I mean, the erosion of our civil liberties in the UK because of the war on terror has been ferocious over the last 10 years. But even in the UK, they're now talking, I believe, about introducing aerial drones just to police the population. So what starts in a war situation in Middle Eastern countries is now just going to become a sort of community control, benign thing, an eye in the sky, to begin with anyway in the UK. But yes, going on to Blackwater, or Z, I think it's renamed itself because it had such a bad brand in Iraq. Yes, it is a new species, and it's a growth industry. I think the number of mercenaries who've been operating in Iraq is actually about 3 times the number of proper military, and American. Yeah, it's huge. But the major problem, the major issue with these people is that while official spies or official military have some notional accountability, there are laws within which they are supposed to operate, not always upheld. With organisations like Blackwater or Z, of course, they are given immunity under international law to do whatever they want with impunity. And they did in Iraq. They murdered and they tortured. And I believe that they have been making incursions across the border. But I'm not an expert on that. But this whole new format of sort of capitalist espionage is everywhere. I mean, it's also happening in the UK where the private security companies like Kroll and Diligence, and that's probably the 2 big ones, are actually infiltrating activist groups on a massive basis as well. So it's not just the sort of official spies we have to watch out for, who notionally are accountable to one committee in Parliament, but actually get away with everything. But we have these unofficial spies who are not accountable to anybody apart from the shareholder of the company. So it's quite endemic now. We've been spied on quite widely. I would recommend, in terms of the whole capitalist sort of spy military-industrial complex, I've just read the book Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. I don't know how many have read it in this room, but really recommend this in terms of disaster capitalism, the military-industrial complex, and how these big corporations are going into countries and dismantling them and then stripping the assets and not rebuilding much. So please do read that book. And one other I would like to recommend as well, something called War Inc., which again is looking at the rise of mercenary and private security companies. I can't remember who wrote that one. I think that's the sum of my knowledge, I'm afraid, on Blackwater.
Well, I'm really very grateful for the first contribution that's already been stated before, that the opinion presented here is not really an outreach opinion, but just an individual opinion. I am very encouraged by Annie in her exposure of what is the MI6 and MI5 really playing around. The question which has been raised with regard to the capitalist system, we have a democracy, but in reality we have an illusion of democracy. The people who actually control the democratic process in the world are the bankers, the arms manufacturers, the oil barons, the Zionist entity. These are the people which are actually walking behind of what's really happening in the world. But if we say that we are regarded, we are extremists, or we are probably moving into the realm of conspiracy. But from what I already exposed, we're not really in that region. We are in the reality, exactly what we're doing. We come back and we talk about democracy. How do we tackle democracy?